In recent years, amid deepening political unrest and a revival of nationalist sentiment, the discourse surrounding the United States has grown louder and more divided. Since Donald Trump's return to the presidency and his initiation of the largest trade war in modern history, these voices have reached a new intensity. In reality, most express opinions rather than facts, and most hear perspectives, not the truth. Indeed, a significant number lack even a fundamental understanding of the nation. The core of politics in history never resides in who expelled whom from a meeting, or who uttered which boastful words, or which footed dignitary first placed on the tarmac. These are but the froth of public opinion, easily dispersed by a gentle breeze. Politics and history, however, are a meticulously detailed mirror, reflecting not only the past, but also refracting the future. To truly comprehend a nation, especially one as complex as the United States, we must delve deeper, exploring the more profound and enduring structural forces at play. Today, let us employ such a mirror, that of the ancient Roman Republic, to examine America from a different angle. This is not a mere analogy, but arises because the two entities exhibit striking similarities in critical structural dilemmas. The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, "A man's character is his fate." The truth of this statement can be observed in any individual, including the great Julius Caesar. When the anti-Minus Caesar coalition in the Roman Senate resolved to assassinate him, tragedy might have been averted. A soothsayer solemnly warned him, "Beware the Ides of March." His wife, Calpurnia, dreamt of his assassination in the Senate. His friend, Artemidoras, even handed him a letter warning of the plot. But Caesar, supremely self-minus confident, perhaps overly merciful, neither read his friend's letter nor heeded his wife's pleas. On the Ides of March itself, he reportedly mocked a soothsayer. "You see, the Ides of March have come." The seer coolly replied, "Aye, Caesar, but not gone." It was on this very day, March 15th, 44 BC, that Caesar entered the Senate and was beset by a group of Republican nobles. He suffered numerous stab wounds, his lifeblood staining the base of Pompey's statue. His final words, uttered to Marcus Brutus, once deeply trusted, were reputedly, "Even you, my son." The senatorial nobles naively believed that Caesar's blood would save the Republic. They failed to recognize that the Republic's fate was already sealed. It was not the dictator Caesar who killed the Republic, but the decay of its own institutions and the corruption of its aristocracy. If we open our eyes and place history in its broader context, we discover that the so minus called troubles plaguing America today echo those of the late Roman Republic. Military overreach, senatorial corruption, populism, factional strife, wealth disparity, and cultural division. Yesterday's story repeats today. Every piece of news is but yesterday's story retold. Similar to the United States today, the Roman Republic's glory was largely built upon its formidable military strength and relentless expansion. From unifying Italy to prevailing in the Punic Wars, conquering the Hellenistic world and Gaul, the Roman legions were seemingly invincible, their territory vast. Yet this apparently boundless success was intertwined with its internal decay, cause and consequence feeding each other. Military expansion was not just a show of strength, but also a means of managing internal conflicts, including elite power struggles and resource demands. Its consequences ultimately triggered a series of fatal chain reactions. In the late Republic, as Rome's domain expanded through military might, the immense wealth acquired through conquest lined the pockets of senators. Nepotism thrived. Lucrative posts and important positions were distributed among family members and allies. This obliterated public trust in the Senate, deepening the rift between the elite and the common people. The corruption of the powerful fueled the rise of populism. In the late Republic, the wealth gap between elites and plebeians widened dramatically. Commoners demanded reform, but the senatorial nobility staunchly resisted. This led to the emergence of populist leaders like the Gracchi brothers. Tiberius Gracchus proposed land reform, limiting public land ownership and redistributing the surplus to the poor. His efforts provoked fierce backlash from the nobles, culminating in his murder by a mob incited by them. Years later, his brother Gaius Gracchus, also elected tribune, advanced even more radical reforms, including continuing land redistribution, providing welfare for the poor, and attempting to curb Senate power by allowing plebeians into the judicial system to check corruption. Like his brother, Gaius was suppressed and ultimately took his own life. 3,000 of his supporters were executed. The deaths of the Gracchi brothers taught the Roman populace a harsh lesson. Without military force, challenging the established aristocracy was futile. The commoners learned. Gaius Marius reformed the army, allowing soldiers to pledge loyalty to individuals rather than the state, and began using the military to confront the Senate. The zenith of this populism was Julius Caesar, who, as mentioned earlier, cultivated an image as a champion of the people, distributed land to soldiers and veterans, and ultimately used his army to successfully challenge the Senate, becoming dictator for life. Through external expansion, the Republic acquired vast amounts of cheap slave labor. This dealt a devastating blow to the traditional smallholder farming economy. Rome's early strength relied on these self-sufficient farmers, but with the surge of the slave-based economy, their livelihoods rapidly deteriorated. Small farmers simply couldn't compete with large estates employing masses of cheap labor. They were ultimately forced to sell their land, becoming landless proletarians. This plight might resonate with many in America's middle and lower classes today. The Roman Republic system bears a striking resemblance to modern American democracy. This similarity, of course, is not divine providence, but intentional design by America's founding fathers, born of deep consideration. They sought to avoid both European monarchical absolutism and the mob rule of Athenian democracy. Thus, modeling the US Constitution on the Roman Republic, both systems were based on a separation of powers. Rome's Senate, composed of life-minus aristocrats handling foreign affairs, finance, and military matters, resembled the US Senate. The consuls, akin to presidents, were to chief executives, elected annually to guard against the rise of a dictator. And the citizen assemblies, composed of commoners electing officials and passing laws, paralleled the US House of Representatives and popular voting. Rome's republican system was designed for a city-minus state and its immediate environs. As its territory expanded across the Mediterranean, this ancient framework proved inadequate. How could it govern vast provinces? How could the rights of Roman citizens be balanced against non-minus citizens? Like the Italian alley, how could the excessive concentration of power in the hands of military strongmen be resolved? These challenges overwhelmed the original structure. The Senate became inefficient and slow, assemblies easily manipulated, consular power limited. The entire system gradually crumbled under immense internal and external pressure. In the late Republic, fierce conflicts erupted, such as the struggle over citizenship rights, culminating in the Social War, sparked when non-minus Roman Italians demanded citizenship, fiercely opposed by the Senate and Roman citizens protective of their privileges. Amidst rapid social change, the influx of wealth, and cultural shocks, the traditional virtues Romans prided themselves on, such as loyalty, frugality, sense of duty, collective honor, began to disintegrate. Luxurious lifestyles prevailed, personal ambition replaced the spirit of public service, social cohesion weakened, and cynicism and utilitarianism rose. Divisions deepened between people of different classes and origins. The shared identity blurred, and the intrinsic cohesion holding the Republic together waned. This decay of virtue intertwined with political corruption, wealth disparity, and factional strife, mutually reinforcing each other and accelerating the Republic's demise. In the late Republic, factional conflict became a fight to the death. First came the struggle between the Senate nobility and the Gracchi brothers. After their deaths, fueled by widening inequality, the populist Marius reformed the army, recruiting the landless. His conflict with the aristocratic Sulla involved rounds of bitter fighting, ending in Marius's defeat. But the populists soon resurged with Caesar, who ultimately triumphed. By then, the Senate had effectively lost power. Caesar's assassination failed to restore the Republic. His adopted son, Octavian, established the Roman Empire in 27 BC. With that, the curtain fell forever on the great and enduring Republic. From the preceding discussion, discerning observers may already find answers to many questions. The enduring appeal of comparing the Roman Republic to the contemporary United States lies in these very similarities. America's political system was initially designed for 13 colonies. Today, as a superpower dominating global finance and military affairs, this 18th century framework struggles to meet current needs. This is a primary reason why the US has revealed numerous flaws during the process of globalization. For instance, the US Constitution envisioned the president as merely a chief executive. Yet today's president acts as a global spokesperson and decision-maker. The Senate, created to represent 13 states, now grants disproportionate political weight to sparsely populated states, skewing checks and balances. Furthermore, the electoral college system, the entrenched minus party structure, and the proliferation of super-PACs increasingly constrict the democratic process in practice. Congress, originally a legislature for a small city-minus state, now grapples with global challenges ranging from climate change and cybercustody to the Asia-Pacific balance and immigration crises, rendering it remarkably inefficient. Therefore, an upgrade to America's system seems imperative. Yet, such reform demands extreme caution. Mishandled, it could easily lead the nation astray, potentially jeopardizing America's destiny forged over the centuries. Like the Republic before it, a major problem facing the US today is wealth polarization. Reflecting on the various troubles of recent decades reveals many are inextricably linked to this divide. According to relevant data, by 2020, the wealthiest 1% own nearly 40% of the nation's wealth. Over the past few decades, the middle class has shrunk, and life for lower-income citizens has become increasingly difficult. The root cause of American wealth disparity bears resemblance to Rome's acquiring vast amounts of cheap labor after external expansion. Since the 1972, the US began outsourcing manufacturing, although the initial effects were modest. However, after China joined the WTO in 2001, American capital flooded into China, exploiting cheap labor for production. This induced an economic shock in many US industries, causing widespread job losses, middle-class contraction, and progressively widening inequality. However, attributing the depth of America's social division solely to external shocks is insufficient. In fact, domestic policy choices since the 1980s have also fueled inequality. Examples include federal tax systems favoring capital gains and high earners, financial deregulation leading to asset bubbles, and the systematic weakening of labor unions, all significant factors diminishing workers' bargaining power. Under this combined internal and external pressure, a sense of relative deprivation has accumulated among America's lower strata, ultimately manifesting as widespread anger towards the system, expressed both at the ballot box and on the streets. Echoing the domino effect in the Roman Republic, America's wealth gap has further fueled the rise of populism and intensified partisan warfare. As the saying goes, there is no love without reason, no hate without cause. Today's consequences are born of yesterday's actions. Furthermore, like the late Roman Republic, the US exhibits signs of expansion fatigue. Maintaining over 700 military bases globally incurs staggering costs. A degree of strategic pullback appears a prudent choice. Another crucial point, perhaps best felt by those living in the US for years, is the recent shift in America's social customs and virtues. One might have once described rural America as a place of peace and order, where doors were left unlocked and travelers could sleep safely. But today, interpersonal trust has markedly declined. Social media often encourages emotional confrontation over consensus minus building. Identity politics has become increasingly polarized, turning even humor and forms of address into litmus tests of political allegiance. This is not merely a moral issue, but signifies a rupture in the shared norms governing public life. Just as Roman civic virtue was eroded by expansion, luxury, and personal ambition, America's internal consensus is weakening. Public distrust of institutions, mockery and anger directed at elites. These strongly resemble the disillusionment Roman citizens felt towards their Senate. Understanding these factors makes it easier to comprehend the potent isolationist sentiment currently present in the United States. This sentiment has ebbed flowed throughout America's ±, year history. Paradoxically, the outcome has often been one step back followed by 3 steps forward. In Washington's era, he urged avoidance of European entanglements to focus on internal development. But fate intervened. By the late 19th century, America's booming economy made it the world's largest, necessitating engagement with the international system for further gain. In 1898, the US fought its first overseas war, acquiring the Philippines, Guam, and Cuba. Leading up to World War I, America still clung to non-minus intervention in European conflicts. Reality forced its hand. German U- boats sank US merchant ships and attempted to enlist Mexico against the US. Amidst strong public protest, America eventually entered the war. At the time, the entire US Army numbered only 130,000 men, possessed no tanks, and few aircraft. A German admiral reportedly scoffed, "With our U- boats intercepting, not many American combat troops will reach Europe." He was wrong. American intervention proved decisive. After World War I, the US was a world power, yet strong isolationist sentiment persisted until 1941. Once again, circumstances proved stronger than inclination. Considering both economic and political factors, joining the war seemed the only viable option. After World War II, calls to return to domestic focus resurfaced. But by then, the US was the sole superpower. Global intervention had become irreversible. Therefore, the various perplexing moods and actions of Americans today are not as inexplicable as some commentators suggest. They represent long-standing, traceable sentiments. Today, the US is deeply embedded in the global system economically, militarily and otherwise. Power abhors a vacuum. Power must continually expand to maintain its own security. This is not determined by any individual, but by the nature of power and order itself. This current wave of isolationism might well follow the old pattern: one step back, 3 steps forward. What the ultimate result will be, only time will tell. Despite the myriad challenges, the narratives of American collapse circulating on social media lack realism. Commentators often act as microminus expression detectives, judging American politics based on single statements or actions, which is highly irresponsible. Others pessimistically compare today's US to the late Roman Empire. However, a key factor often cited for the Western Roman Empire's fall, the supposed decline of martial spirit due to the rise of Christianity, hardly applies to the United States today. Today, America is indeed experiencing the troubles of a late republic, plagued by internal imbalances resulting from overextension. Perhaps a time for significant change has arrived. Yet, one should not lose faith, especially at such a pivotal moment. The real danger America must guard against is the potential transformation from a republic of free competition into an overly centralized empire, just as the Roman Republic became the Roman Empire. Edward Gibbon warned, Rome was not destroyed by the empire, but its expansion made the empire inevitable. This warning resonates profoundly for the United States today. History must be heeded, caution exercised. Besides, history is never a perfect mirror. Modern America differs from the Roman Republic in several fundamental ways. Every 4 years, every citizen has the right to vote in the presidential and mid-term elections. This is a powerful safeguard that helps balance the powers of Congress and the President, making it far less likely for a modern -day Caesar to seize unchecked control. The United States also benefits from federalism, judicial independence, and a free press, structures that enhance transparency and accountability. More importantly, America remains a magnet for the world's brightest minds. Scientists, engineers, thinkers, and entrepreneurs from across the globe continue to flock to its shores in pursuit of opportunity. This open system of innovation, of meritocracy, provides a level of dynamism and resilience the Roman Republic never possessed. And yet, beneath these differences, deeper parallels emerge. Across centuries and continents, the rhythm echoes. From breaking free of imperial rule to rising as a global hegemon, the United States has, in many ways, retraced the arc of ancient Rome. And now, like the Republic once did, it stands at a critical turning point. The Rubicon is not a wide river, but an inconspicuous stream. Its flow varies with the seasons. Nearly dry in summer, a plentiful stream in winter's rains. Many years ago, Julius Caesar camped with his legion beside this stream. It was winter, the Rubicon's murmuring current audible above the trumpet's call. Caesar stood by the stream, long hesitating to cross. 9 years prior, he had launched the Gallic Wars, conquering all of Gaul. The Roman Senate grew deeply uneasy, ordering him back to Rome. Caesar faced a dilemma: obey the Senate, disband his army, and face certain arrest, loss of power, possibly death, or defy Roman law. which declared any commander leading troops across the Rubicon a traitor. Caesar's hesitation was not for himself. He had little choice. It was for the Republic he had once served. He knew that crossing the Rubicon meant no turning back. At dawn, Caesar finally gave the order to cross, uttering the immortal words, Alia acta est. The die is cast. An era ended. 1,000 years of citizen self-minus governance concluded. It would be another millennium before people could again shake off autocracy and return, metaphorically, to the other side of the Rubicon. We look back at that modern age of citizen self-minus governance, not with nostalgia, but for enlightenment, upon the monumental pillars of the Republic's history in today's world, at once familiar and strange, fraught with intense conflict. The faces of Roman citizens faintly emerge. As the Roman Republic once faced its moment of reckoning, so too does contemporary America, standing at a critical juncture, hesitant on its next move. One hopes that before it chooses, it glances back at the Roman Republic that once was. Great again, or full forever. Perhaps the critical moment of decision is at hand. America, America, may God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood.
We built our halls on freedom's name, from sea to shining sea.